Welcome, everyone. My name is Greg Johnston. I'm the president of the Songwriters Association of Canada, SAC. I'd like to thank Long McQuaid for hosting this event for us. And we're just going to have a conversation that's all about songwriting. I've got some, I'm really happy that we've got some really talented people here, Troy Kokol, MERNA, SATE, and Rob Wells. Thank you guys for taking the time. I really appreciate it. For those of you that don't know, the Songwriters Association of Canada is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping improve songwriters' craft. And we do a lot of work on the advocacy side as well to make sure that proper remuneration is always a key to being in the songwriting business. So we do a lot of work. We do some lobbying at government. We're involved in international efforts as well to make sure that the streaming services are paying proper rates. And we're a volunteer board. So, and as it happens, Troy Kokol is a director. SATE is a director of the SAC. Rob Wells sits on a committee. And if things go my way, MERNA is going to be involved in the SAC as well, but we could talk about that later. But if you're interested in the craft and if you're concerned about the future of the profession of songwriting, I really encourage you to join the SAC. We work really, really hard to make sure that people can still make a living with this really important part of the music industry, because everything starts with the song. You can't record a non-song. You can't manage an artist with no songs. And so we really believe that it's the foundation of the business. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right in. Rather than reading everyone's Wikipedia page, I'll let you guys do that on your own. Also, I encourage everyone to stick around. We're gonna talk amongst ourselves for about 45 minutes, I'm planning on, and then we're gonna open it up for questions. But this is a really good opportunity to hear some people that have a lot of experience, a lot of diverse experience in this business. So I think there's a lot to learn here. So stick with us. I'll try and keep it moving along. Again, hi guys. I'm gonna work on my screen clockwise here. First of all, I just want to ask, how's everybody doing with COVID? It's on everyone's brain. I'm worried about a lot of my friends and my colleagues in the business. It's been really tough. It's decimated the live scene. Myself personally, I haven't worked in a while now. I'm mostly an AV composer now. I was a songwriter for a long, long time, and I still do songwrite, of course, but COVID has shut down the business and shut down shooting. So, there's a lot of shows that aren't being shot, and I can't put music to something that I don't have on picture. Troy, why don't you just briefly let us know how COVID has impacted you?
Well, thanks, Greg, and thanks for everybody for showing up and coming to share the today with you. We're excited to speak with you. For me, because I work in Calgary and I work remotely, I've built my whole business around working remotely, because in Alberta, a lot of the artists I work with, artists in Australia and some in the US and some in other the coast to coast, and so I've had to learn to use my my web tools, and because of that, my business, especially on the production side, hasn't really been affected as much. I don't work in TV and film as much, so I think I got kind of lucky.
Yeah. Thanks, Troy. MERNA, how's everything going?
But I know a lot of our, a lot of the artists we're working with, they're.
Sorry, Troy. I wasn't trying to cut you off. You cut off on my audio feed. So I thought you were done. Hopefully we don't step all over each other.
Your story has become tiresome.
I turn off the mic and just mute you. Do you want to finish, Troy?
Good. Sure? I'm good.
Okay. COVID was weird for me. Like I had a lot of projects that I was finishing up, and I was at the point where I didn't have to be in the studio anymore. So I just got to kind of take all the sessions home and finish all the production and, whatever else. And then, I couldn't be in the room with an artist. I would just use their voice and sample it and harmonize it and record backgrounds for them and, just finish the songs. So I was able to do that. And then I downloaded something called Audio Movers that allowed people to kind of stream into my sessions live. So it's just a plugin you drag into your master track on whatever DAW you're using. So I do that often, which is fun because people don't expect it. And
what is that called again, Myrna?
Audio Movers.
Audio Movers. Okay.
Yeah. So I think you pay like, I don't know, maybe $10 a month or something like that. So if you're doing sessions, whether it's mastering, mixing, production, writing, people can stream in. I think there's also an option where, sorry, we're getting into the meat of this thing now. I think there's an option where people can actually record into your session, not just listen.
Wow.
I think, yeah, I haven't used it. I've just used the thing where they can stream the session, or, from my master track or whatever it is. And, then they can hear me talk whatever. So I basically found ways to kind of get around not being in the room with people. And I quite enjoyed guiltily not being in the room with people. I also just quickly broke my arm the first month of COVID, and then just was had the worst time with that, and then kind of picked myself up with my little makeshift shopper drug mart cast and just decided to finish a record. So then I was working independently doing my own record. So it's just been a lot of that. And just in the bubble, there were times where I had a couple songwriting sessions over here, but otherwise, yeah, no, I've been okay. And in terms of the performance scene, I only really do a circuit of performance around albums. So I didn't really feel it so much because I didn't have any releases at the time. But I do feel for all my friends who definitely are, live to perform to live. So I was able to sustain otherwise. Plus I keep a day job for fun. So
well, you're keeping busy. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah.
SATE?
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Hi. Well, I mean, it was a lot of up and down. It was a lot of, I think I shut down and kind of was trying to find my footing as to what do I do? What do I want to do? A lot of that was going on. It was a very spiritual time for me. So I went inward a lot. I stopped kind of doing music, didn't really want to come on live and, do Instagram lives. I did one and I hated it. And I was like, I like being in front of people. I'm the performer that loves to perform. So a lot of tours were shut down. I had a theater. I had an opera that I was going to be on tour doing, and that was shut down. I was going to be in South America and France, and of course shut down. So it wasn't until just recently that I got my home studio together, just got a wave of inspiration to be like, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to figure it out. And so I'm just finishing an album now, almost 2 days away from being done. So that's where I'm at.
Cool.
And it's really
right
good.
On. Thanks, SATE. And how about you, Rob?
Suddenly my spacebar thing didn't work anymore to unmute myself. Sorry. Here I am just come on. Here we are. Yeah, living the COVID dream. It's been a lot of fun. I would say the first couple of months were a little scary just because everything just all of a sudden disappeared. All the jobs just kind of got put on hold. And then after that, it's just things started coming back again. Like Troy, I've been really set up to do remote recording for quite a long time. I've been doing stuff before on Skype way back in the day and sending files back and forth on WeTransfer. So the big joke is that producers have been in quarantine for 50 years. We're just sort of, this is what we do. We sit in these little caves and we do these things. What has been really, really cool, I think, about this whole situation is that everybody's really embraced technology. And, the very fact that here we are, we're all on Zoom, we're all talking like this, I honestly, 2 years ago, it would have been so difficult to get everybody organized and to be able to do this. And, Audio Movers is a great program. I personally use Cubase, and Cubase has this thing called VST Connect, which enables me to connect with another person on another computer. And it figures out what the latency is between my computer and their computer. And when I hit record, it plays on their end and they record singing away, and then as soon as they're done, as soon as I hit stop, the audio file instantly transfers to me and lays itself perfectly right in the track where it's supposed to be.
Wow, that's cool.
It's really good. So I mean, like, technology has really embraced this whole situation, and they've come out with all sorts of great things to make our lives a lot easier, to keep the creative juices flowing. And
I know we're not supposed to ask questions now, but does that work with all DAWs?
well, that's just a Cubase only thing, but I'm sure that all the other DAWs are they have, you know, something like that.
I think Pro Tools has something like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also Session Wire that I think is something that does the same thing. The big trick is just figuring out, you know, calculating the latency between computers, because as we know, we can't jam live. It's really hard because there's this, you know, first
And the
world problems, I
latency
know.
changes too. It changes as you're going along.
Exactly. And depending on internet speeds, which can go up and down and everything. And it's this new software is really, really cool. And it's, I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, great. So guys, I just want to go around the table one more time and just give a little brief background. What I'm always interested in people's origin stories. Like, how did you just get right to songwriting? Were you a performer? You know, were you doing music since you were right out of the womb, or, you know, what did your path to, you know, professional songwriting? What did it look like briefly, Troy?
For me, I started really late. You know, before I got into music, I was working at the city of Calgary. You know, we wrote a song, and it was kind of just a fun thing. And we met a guy, and that guy just happened to be a manager who just happened to be, you know, take on a new artist, and the song blew up. It went as big as it could have. And then all of a sudden I'm kind of like, well, I guess I'm a songwriter now. And so, but I sort of, you know, I really, because I never paid my dues. I did not sleep in a van down by the river. I've never, you know, been starving in my van. You know, I've never had to suffer through that. So I've always been kind of hesitant. And so, but as time went on, I just got busier and busier. And so now I'm, you know, staring at my computer pretty much all day and producing and songwriting for country music / pop artists, you know, so it's good. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. It's very, very cool, Troy. How about you, Myrna?
I'll try not to make this a very long story. Fan first. I used to record myself singing. I'm a singer first. I used to record myself singing on a CD tape recorder thing my dad bought when I was like 12, and I was obsessed with that. So that was like my first engineering gig. And not really. And anyways, very quickly from there, just kept singing. Around 15, I downloaded Cool Edit, which is like Adobe Audition or something. And I went on hiphopcanada.com, met a bunch of people when I first moved back to Toronto when I was 15. Started tracking and re-recording songs that already existed. And by doing that, like, I was kind of understanding, you know, vocal production, and I was understanding how to, you know, work this very simple DAW at the time. And then from there, I really was an artist for a really long time and wrote all of my own music, all my own songs. And then in the last couple of years, I got together with a couple of really cool producers who were like, wait, why aren't you writing these other songs for other people? And so I kind of just started doing that about a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. How about you, SATE?
Well, I came out of the womb of a pretty great performer, Salome Bay. So I was kind of born into this music thing, being a performer, being a singer, actor, just a creative. So I was surrounded by that. Went to a school for the arts as a dancer, didn't really sing, but was always singing. Been in a few bands. And I've just been singing. I've always been writing songs because my mom was always writing songs. So that's just something that we did in house, the whole family. And just recently, really starting to dip my toe into production and really getting my own ideas out, because I know that I have pretty unique ideas, and sometimes I wasn't able to translate them to people. So I just started literally banging on my piano and making sounds.
Amazing. And Rob, you come from a musical background as well, don't you?
Yeah, family was pretty musical. By the time I was born, I had an older brother who was 4 years older than me that was playing piano like crazy. and my mom was playing piano, my grandmother was playing piano, so it was kind of like you needed to reserve time on the piano, and it just became almost like it was like the language in the house. Basically, you're learning English and you're learning piano, and so I just played and played and played. And grade 3, my teacher said, "Have you ever thought about writing a song?" And he challenged me to write a song over the holiday break. And I did, and I came back and played it for him, and he liked it, and he played it for the class, and they learned it, and then they performed it in April in front of all the teachers, the students, and parents. And I saw this applause, and I just thought, man, that's it. That I went from wanting to be an astronaut to wanting to be a songwriter right then and there. But I didn't end up becoming a professional songwriter until I was 31. I did lots of other jobs because I was told kind of like, you can't make it in this industry, and you're going to be living on the streets if you want to be a songwriter. And yeah, finally, just like, after years and years of writing songs by myself and then learning how to co-write with people and going to a writing camp, I got a song that went on radio and went top 10 in Canada, and I was able to quit my day job and just focused on songwriting and production ever since then, since 2003.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was playing the piano when I was 3 years old, and it just sort of never stopped there. And then my parents had a great Motown vinyl collection, so I just listened to that constantly. There's a few abnormalities in the collection as well. There's some Doobie Brothers, and all the appropriate yacht rock, and and then I ended up wanting to be a rock guy. I guess that it was sort of a small sense of rebellion, but Troy, you and I have had a few conversations, and we've had conversations about construction and building materials and video and all kinds of things. You've got this really interesting video for your song Light Bulb that came up, and it made me think about this podcast I was listening to, and this author David Epstein was talking about. He wrote this book called Range, which is sort of the opposite of the 10,000 hours theory, where you have to, you got to do 10,000 hours on this before you become an expert. And then when you started actually looking at super successful people, they actually are really great at a bunch of things and had done a wide variety of things. And I started thinking about all of my friends that are songwriters and creators, and you did this amazing video. MERNA, you're a multimedia artist. SATE, you're learning production and on Photoshop. And Rob, you're an animator and a great photographer. I dabble in photography too. Troy, it makes me wonder, like, what do you think about that theory? And then can you also just give us a little background on the Light Bulb video? Because it's such a great song. I love the song. It's super catchy. And the video is, I find it quite, it's really simple, but it's so beautiful in the way it's sort of in the way it takes the message of the song. I don't know. I really like it. Can you talk to us about it for a little bit?
Yeah, totally. And to your point about diversifying your and I think that idea of being creative in many ways, and especially in this time, when we're sort of, when we're in a lockdown, I think that exploring those different creative things that you can bring to the table, I think it just helps really allow you to express yourself better and to understand as well that, whatever you're writing about, there's a reason for it, and it's your story and it's your unique story. And I think for me, doing the stop motion, I didn't know anything about stop motion. And I just thought, well, I'll just do it. And so I started doing it and realized really quickly how, it's like a 3-minute video has got like 3,000, pictures. I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? But, the thing is that what I learned in all of that is that, if I allow myself to be vulnerable and to do something that is fun and joyful, that, the more that I've done that, I've found that more opportunities come to me. And I think also too, it allows me to be a little more honest in the whole process. So.
Yeah, I really like the doing things in a joyful way. I mean, I think that sort of informs all of our creative spirits, and not to get too spiritual about it, but I mean, there is part of being a songwriter, I find, is gross empathy, where you just feel things really, really deeply. And
yep.
I know a lot of my writing friends sometimes have to shut that empathy off. It can be overwhelming, you know. It's too much, and it's too much info. And I think if you can find other ways to express yourself, I think sometimes it tames those feelings. And Myrna, so you do many different things as well too. Can you speak to that philosophy a little bit and how it's maybe affected your career?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is a lot of, because I'm a singer first, I think a lot of what happened was an organic, natural kind of progression, but also kind of born of necessity. So, you know, like I was an artist, or I'm an artist first, I'm an artist, but then I had to manage myself. So then I needed to understand business, and then that translated into corporate work. I, you know, needed videos done, so I would collaborate with the directors. And then when I did my last record, I just kind of dreamt up a whole bunch of images and decided to direct this video, or this series of videos, which I did. So then that just came easily, and I'd worked with so many other people and been behind the scenes on my own stuff for so long that it was kind of easy to kind of get into that position. As a producer, same thing. I've been sitting, you know, with producers in rooms for years and years and years, and like really great, like legendary producers that were just awesome and humble enough to teach me and show me and trust me in my writing, and also kind of take my advice or my taste when I'd make suggestions during production or mix. And so then I realized, hey, well, maybe I could do this as well. And also push me into go like, get on your keyboard, you play piano, get on, you know, pick up the guitar, like, you know, produce this thing because you're directing us. Like, fucking get on the, sorry, can we swear? It's the internet.
I think my mother's listening just because.
It's too late now.
Yeah.
I've been biting.
Oh, we're not allowed. I didn't know. Okay.
No, we should try and keep it as
yeah. Okay. You know, I mean, curse words for me are like just they're just indication of passion. They're not so, you know, bad but anyways, I understand. So yeah, so really it's just kind of born out of necessity and encouragement from other people, and really trying to do justice by your story or by your message. So, you know, of course I can paint a beautiful image with the song, you know, but if I close my eyes while I'm listening to that song and, you know, I'm flooded with image, like I want to express that as well. And so, you know, I've also done kind of installation or like experiential installation,
cool,
both like physical stuff and do like the sound scoring for it. And now I'm starting to do TV and film. So that's really great. And so it's just, they're just extensions of you, right, as the storyteller, and they're just kind of mediums or tools. So necessity and then encouragement. And then you're like, oh, wait, I really like this. And I like being able to jump from thing to thing and express this art, you know, in different ways.
Yeah, and different things can inform other mediums that you're working on. You know, I find I get, yeah.
There's a thought diversity that normally you might find, you know, you want to encourage within a team, but then it's like when you yourself are like 5 people in the team and have this thought diversity from different perspectives. Like I'm a Virgo moon in my chart, and so I'm constantly Rubik's and looking at things from different perspectives. So it's, yeah. Sorry.
Well, so you're speaking to a fellow Virgo, so there you go. I understand that. And then SATE, how about you? Like, how's the Photoshop going? And I mean, obviously you're a dancer too. I mean, I find this fascinating that we all share these sort of wild diversities of artistic expression. It's super cool. Yeah. I find this
What like everything, we're artists, so we're vessels, and I'm vessels of God. So we're open.
Wait, is it just SATE?
Not religious, spiritual.
Is it just me who can't hear you?
Yeah,
you're robotic.
Yeah, I think we're getting some. Try one more time. Say it. I totally wanted to hear that. How about we go to Rob, and then maybe your internet will smooth out. I'll come back to you, SATE.
Hey, brother.
Hey,
sorry,
man.
What was the question?
Well, I'm really, because you know you're such a talented animator, and you've done some AV composing as well, and then you've got some really super good some photos. We've shared some photos back and forth. You know, like tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, you know, like I just think the arts all the arts, there's just so deeply related to each other. You know, it's like one blends into the other and into the other and into the other. And it's just, I don't know, like I just really have just a desire to learn all the arts and be a part of all the arts. And obviously I love music and production the most, but man, is it ever great to take a break and to do something different. And I find that, you know, when you jump into doing, you know, for example, a lot of the artists that I work with, they end up asking me to do music videos for them just because they've known that I've done that in the past. And it's just a different way of creating. And I find that it recharges the batteries for when I get back into music. You know, the whole time when I'm creating music, I'm always thinking about, how is this song going to work on stage? You know, like how would the music video be for this song? I'm always thinking about that as I'm doing the production, and just like putting in little bits of ear candy and things like that, where you'd have moments of cuts in the music video itself, or, you know, the live show. What, you know, I'm just thinking about all these different things, and then I just find that it just helps to sort of blend them all together, and they all feed each other as well, and just makes you, I think, you know, stronger writer, producer, all of that. And also listening to multiple different styles, not just listening to pop music, but listening to everything from around the world, you know, all different styles of music from everywhere, not just now, but in the past as well. You know, just informing yourself with as much of the arts as you can just helps make you a better songwriter and producer, I think.
Yeah, Rob, I often encourage, you know, emerging songwriters to, you know, to make sure that they're exploring as much as they can, because it's, especially when you start expressing yourself in lyrics and in emotions, like you have to have a wide array of experiences. You know, you can't have lived in a silo. And I always, like, you know, there isn't a type of music that I don't like. I mean, I'll listen to whatever. I mean, it's all fascinating to me on some level. I excel personally, you know, with certain styles or certain genres because I'm more experienced in a technical way, or, you know, I've had more experience producing that particular style. But SATE, how's your internet working?
I don't know. Tell me. How's it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I sometimes it hacks out on me out here, but I mean, I'm really echoing everyone. You know, we're vessels. We're vessels of just God, not in a religious way, in a spiritual way, in the universe, the creator, the source. So I feel that only informs us to be extended beyond just the song, because the song is an expression, it's a feeling. So the expression and feeling is art, is visual, is sensual, it's sensual. So it's smell. Like I love to smell or taste or hear or see or like feel turned on by a song. I want to dance to a song. I want it to move me. I want it to move my spirit. I want art to move me. I want, you know, just so much like MERNA, you know, and actually everyone, you know, just talking about how it's just an extension. When you start with something, you just figure out how to do the things that you see, that you dream of, that you feel when you make that thing.
Yeah.
So
And it's also sometimes the process of failing to be able to get those things out that teaches you, or you can discover something new in the process of failure. Or, you know, I set out to do this and it didn't work out, but now I got something else. So I think a lot of times it's the openness, you know, there's a certain amount of letting go and not trying to control everything as a writer. And I find my experience as co-writing too, people that have like a really narrow vision of what they want out of that session tend to irritate all the other co-writers, you know, where it's just like, chill out, dude. Like, you know, everyone gets a turn, or a writer that really wants to hold on to one particular idea, you know. It's like, well, I mean, it's a really cool idea, but this vibe doesn't seem to want to go there, you know. So it's being open to the.
We have to. I mean, as human beings, or beings having human experience, we have to learn how to read the room. You know, being empathetic people, you have to learn how to read the room and read the vibe. I've been in same sessions where it's just like, oh my God, just let go of that or keep that for yourself. It's not working here, and it's fine. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person or a bad songwriter. It's like, if that really turns you on, take it, and I think, like, just like you said about the failing, it's like, we got to throw shit at the wall, throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks, right? And it's like anything, you throw anything at the wall, see if it sticks. The art, the production, that's how we learn how to produce. That's how we learn how to, I've been collaging and I've always been a visual artist, but I've never really taken it on. But now it's like, oh, well, I've always done this and loved this, so why not do it? Certain things, just like Troy said, joy.
Yeah, very, very cool. Troy, you're quite a busy guy in the producing world now, and you've done stuff as yourself as an artist, and I'm sure you've done just some straight songwriting for other people. How do you find? Because I was in a position not that long ago, like you, where it seemed to be just a lot of producing and maybe some songwriting and producing. How do you balance like what you want to accomplish as yourself as an artist, like things that you want to say sort of for yourself, and then just the meat and potatoes of producing and making money and pitching songs to other people? Like,
Yeah.
do you work on it, or do you just kind of go with the flow?
I find that, the best opportunities, and I'll tell most new artists and songwriters too, that the best opportunities that have ever come to me have been when my phone rings. I think when we start out, like, I know for me, I had this vision that I was going to write and I was going to move to Nashville and I was going to get cuts on records. And so I started reaching out, knocking on doors, and no matter where I went, it just seems like the doors just kept slamming everywhere I went. And those were all things I didn't have control over. When it changed for me is when I decided, it's like, well, what do I have control over? I can songwrite, I can learn how to record, I can learn how to use some tools, and I have access to a certain amount of people through my work. And I found that the more that I did that and I focused on the things I had control over and just tried to do that with the absence of fear, what would end up happening is that as I'm creating stuff, because I think I'm doing it joyfully, because I'm not fearful in the situation I'm in, is that it sounds okay. And that after a while, you go out, you do shows, you put out music, and after a while my phone starts ringing. And I think the opportunities that I'm ready for is when my phone rings. It's even like with production. I really wanted to produce bad like 8 years ago, and I cannot tell you how many people I tried to hit up with it. But the more that I just did what I had control over, and I produced my own record and had a little bit of success with that, and then my phone rang, and so now I'm at the place now where I'm producing and songwriting on projects, all the time. But I think that I got there because I tried to be patient and create in a way that made sure that I had control over, I was doing the things that I had control over, as opposed to trying to beg someone to write with me or beg someone to listen to my work, and plus that way it was way less soul sucking, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna take that advice to heart again. I mean, I think a lot. It's same with me. A lot of the opportunities that I've had have just from me, just doing a great job of what I was doing, and then something kind of came up. It's the stuff that I really fought hard for. The time I sent 50 packs of CDs and bios and pictures to every publisher in Nashville, and didn't get a single call back. But what happened is I got my break through writing with an artist who was young and up and coming, and then a publishing company noticed the work I was doing with that artist. So my opportunity came through doing good work and just really focusing on my craft. MERNA, you've had you've got some really impressive collaborations. Some of these people like Raphael Sadiq, he was an inspiration to me. Doc McKinney, DJ Jazzy Jeff, amazing. And I want to ask you about I was looking at your on the Apple Music, and there was you were featured on a Cardinal track called Hope, and it was such a great vocal performance, and it was really rangy too, because there's sort of this. Your voice is absolutely beautiful, and it can do so many things, and you sort of had this sort of ethereal thing in the top of the track, you know, and then there was some more sort of R&B influenced or gospel influenced sort of vocals, and the track is just, it's banging track too. I love it, and I think tell us how that came around, how those sort of collaborations sort of happened for you.
Okay, so the first big one was Jazzy Jeff. Essentially, MySpace was coming up. It just had just came out, and I was younger, so I had a lot of time to spend on MySpace. And I essentially harassed him. Oh no, I didn't harass him. I sent him a message. I said, I'm a fan, I'd like to work. He wrote me right back, said, I'm a fan, I'd love to work. And then I had to kind of bug him for a year and a half, like, hey, don't forget about me. And so he finally flew me out to Delaware, where he lived. And it was like automatic family. And we spent about 4 years working on music together. And through him, I worked with like James Poyser of The Roots and Damien DeSantis, who's really great, and Pete Kuzma, who's an amazing piano player, and just met a bunch of people and worked on great songs. And like working with somebody of like, I guess that stature at the time, especially I was like 22, maybe, or something like that, 21, and being trusted, like just being allowed to just be me and write my songs and sing the way I wanted to sing and write what I wanted and say what I wanted to say, kind of sparked that, I guess, maybe confidence. So I really appreciate those types of relationships. So that was Jeff. Doc McKinney, I mean, I know him from around the way, like Scarborough, because we have a mutual friend,
right,
who had a studio. So he was renting out his studio. I used to go there and hang out, smoke and other things. And like, you know, so met Doc. And then a couple of years later, I had kind of left the Jeff situation and was working on this album called The Calling, which was the first one I released under my name, MERNA, because that Jazzy Jeff stuff was under Aya. And so I did this stuff under MERNA, and I just really loved this record. It was a little bit more alternative, felt like more like me. And so I'd known Doc to be that guy. So we had a meeting, I played him the music. He said, don't do anything, I really want to get involved, love this. And then we just kind of sparked a friendship and collaborative relationship from there. Sadiq, I don't know why it says that in the bio. I was supposed to work with Sadiq. I didn't work with Sadiq, but I worked with Ali Shaheed Muhammad, who was part of Lucy Pearl. And I had met him, and Tribe. And I'd met him through Doc. So I'd worked with him a lot as well on The Calling album. He actually mixed it and did a couple songs with me. And then, and then from there I worked with, for The Calling, I'm just going to make mention of Makai Black, may he rest in peace, because he passed away a couple of years ago. But he was the main producer of that record. So also allowed me to kind of push my ideas or my production chops. He was like this, he was brilliant in his own right, and then was also able to understand what I was kind of banging on the table about at the time. I also worked with Slack at the Beat Child, who's really amazing. Slack is from Toronto, great producer, taught me harmonies like in my first goes around, like even before Jeff. So yeah, I mean, I've worked with a lot of really cool people and still am, and I meet new people all the time. And I think it's really just about relationships are number one for me in anything. Like just human relations are number one over anything. So even though when I was younger, it was like very bold music first, and all about the music. And I was just like, that's all I wanted to do and talk about. And wait, why are we having dinner? Let's go back into the room and write another song. Now it's like, I'm a lot more chill. If I do sessions, it's like 2-hour sessions. I'm just like real easy. It's finding joy. It's doing the things, you know, out of love and out of personal necessity, not for, you know, gains or, you know, whatever else. So yeah.
For sure. I mean, it reminds me that I think so much about hanging with songwriters is being able to hang with songwriters. And absolutely. You know, if you're too like on the nose all the time and let's get back to work, and like chill out, like, you know, like it's not like just because we're chatting about something else or having a sandwich doesn't mean I'm not still running course lyric in my head, you know, like we're still in this vibe, you know, like we have to, like, you know, there's a guy that I've written with a lot, and he doesn't actually, when you actually think about it, there's not sort of these concrete musical ideas that you can attribute back to him. but he's so great at connecting people and lifting them up and making them feel great. Like he just he just sets this great tone where creative things can happen.
Absolutely. My one of my latest collaborators, we hang out for like we do a 2-hour window for a session, and he'll come over, I'll go to his place, and we'll do maybe an hour and 40 minutes of just talking, just like chopping it up. And then we're like, okay, shall we get into this last 15 minutes? And we literally just write like 4 songs in 5 minutes. And we're like, okay, cool. Recorded the voice note. Call you later. See ya. So that's
very
the
cool.
easiest, best type of flow I can get into.
Really interesting. I just want to have a note that everyone, your questions are being noted. And as soon as we get, get through this sort of section of it, we'll definitely address as many as we can. SATE, I have to confess, I was a couple of weeks ago, I was blasting your record while making dinner. And the funny thing is about directors on the SAC boards, we actually just talk about business. We don't talk about our own projects. We don't, there's directors that I've never listened to their music, like we really share this unique experience, and it's very focused on protecting songwriters and doing the advocacy work. But I don't know. I was also by myself, so it was a chance to, I didn't know one was watching TV, and man, that record is slamming. I love it. I love it, and it reminds me of a lot of stuff that I was working on too, and it's really interesting. I hear, for some reason, the Lenny Kravitz record, "Let Love Rule," came into my head for me because I found it was a way to connect sort of all of these Motown things I grew up with and sort of the rock bass player that I had become. And I think you do it in such a unique way. Like your voice is so incredibly powerful. And then you had the single in, I guess, 2016, and then you're about to release a new one. Yeah. And I'm curious to ask you how your songwriting process has changed over that time. Like, is it different, and do you collaborate a lot? And you were also very band focused, and then the single was a little more electronic influenced. And what's up next?
It's still very band focused. Like, I love a band. I was in a band when I was like 19, called Black Sam, with my sister Tuku, Adrian X, Sekou Lumumba, JK, Washington Savage, rest in peace, and another friend, Shannon. And we were together for 7 years, and we were signed to a publishing deal with what's his name? Warner US, John Tita. And we were managed by Dave Bryan from Bon Jovi, and like we were like En Vogue but a rock band. Like, people were like, "Free your mind." I was like, no, we were way harder than that and way weirder than that, and harmonies and everything. So that was really, when I say music that moves me, it was always because I come from a dance background. So that was like, if it moves me, then I'm in it. So I was doing that, and that, like, around Toronto, that caught eyes of a lot of people in the like R&B, hip hop. So my sister Shannon and I sang on like Chocolate and Socrates stuff, and sang with Julie and Divine, and I think we did a track on Redman's album, and Reese, another, with Doc. Oh
yeah, right.
And so it was a lot of like, we did a lot of that stuff. But then when the band broke up, I was trying to find my voice, and I didn't know what, because we were writing as a group. So I did the knocking on everyone's door. I know you. Will you sing with me, play with me, like write with me? And no one was answering. And I was like, okay, fine. I have to sit down and do this myself. So it really forced me to get on the piano, which was, it's not something that I do on stage much, but it's my writing tool, and I write on the piano. And that's something that I learned from my mom. She would sit down and write on the piano for hours and hours and hours. So I just went there, and I had an 8-track that I was working like back in the day, figuring out how to, that's when I was figuring out how to produce. And I was actually, that's around the time when I met MERNA, because I was running a, like an open mic kind of thing. It was called Skiffle in My Ear, which was a piano-based night with just women singing with piano. And we'd sing backgrounds, and it was just a song. It was kind of like a songwriter circle. It was a weekly, and I met a lot of people. I met Witch Prophet, MERNA, Zaki Ibrahim, a bunch of people came through there. And then I just kept writing and recording. And I mean, I landed back in rock and roll, because that for me is blues is the foundation of rock and roll. So it's like just hard-edged blues for me. But I've sang on a lot of like dance stuff, and like people would call me, sing. Okay. You know, they want a big voice. Okay. But what I really wanted to do was like kick butt and just like scream and jump around and sweat. And, you know, so that's where I am.
Well, you kick butt extremely well. Those are, those are really great recordings. I really enjoyed them. If you ever need a bass player, yeah.
Hey,
just hit me
hey,
up. Rob, you and I have worked together a lot. We worked on a bunch of Canadian Idol writing camps, and I've been a writer when you've been a producer a lot of the times too. We've written some hits there doing that. And I was thinking the other day, you also got me to play a lot of instruments on some of your recordings too, like Backstreet Boys and Nick Lachey and all the Canadian Idol
because
stuff.
You're incredible. You're amazing.
Thanks, Rob. But my question is, how come you don't call me for any more gigs? No, I'm kidding.
How come you don't call me?
Oh, I'm just going to check the chat here for 1 second. I think we are talking about actual songwriting, so that's the process. So yeah, and thanks, Matt. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I did wanted to ask Rob one question. Is that I think I learned a lot about writing, and actually I learned a lot about producing by being a writer on one of your sessions and watching you produce. And you're an incredible producer, and you're also to watch Rob do his thing is really an amazing thing. It's all totally a reflex thing. He's so quick to like get tracks laid out, and you're just so in the flow. It's amazing. I'm wondering, and I guess you were an influence on the way that I produce, and I was wondering if there was somebody that really influenced your production. That was there someone that you watched, or how you structure these songs, and because it's all about form too. Like, it's not just producing. Like, we're always instinctually we're working on the craft of songwriting, just knowing that, well, we need a bridge now, and we need a chorus.
I grew up like you, listening to a steady diet of Motown, and that just really pointed me in the right direction of how to produce with minimal instrumentation. And then all of a sudden 1989 came around, and Janet Jackson's 1814 record came out. Right. And Rhythm Nation, and that to me
amazing record.
It's probably one of my favorite records of all time. And just Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, what they did with production and songwriting, and just how strong that all is, and just how they were able to create the most amazing, memorable songs, and then create these amazing pieces of art in production that I just really just try to dissect that record as much as possible. And I love the fact that there's real instruments in there, there's really clever programming that's in there. And I've always tried to do a mix of both, where I've got the programming side where it's a lot of MIDI stuff going on, but then I also bring people like you in to play live over top of this stuff. And I just feel like those two different worlds are, that's my favorite jam for sure. And just, you know, I always just sort of have them in the back of my mind whenever I'm creating something new. And I just think, what would Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis do? And that's basically where I start from.
Yeah, pretty incredible too with the technology where that was at. I actually heard that record on the radio the other day, and I was just thinking, like, that must have been so hard for them to do with the technology that was available. And for me, it was an early part of understanding, you know, how production has become part of the songwriting process now. You know, like it's not like the days in the Brill building where there's, you know, a music and a lyric person and then a piano and you write the sheet music and it's done. You know, like the genesis of these ideas often starts with, you know, a loop or a beat or a chord progression or something. And then the chords, yeah.
These days, I have to say, though, that I really try to make it the Campfire Test always. Like, write the song first before even thinking about production at all. The last thing that I want to do is like worry about what the kick drum sound is or what the guitar tone is or anything, because that really doesn't matter when you're writing the song. So,
well, yeah, and you and I have had bad experiences on a writing session where, you know, you're writing with an artist and all they seem to care about is trying to find that snare sound. And it's like, you know, person, we need to actually find a song here. Like the snare we can change out later. And I think that's a really good tip for young songwriters too, is don't get bogged down in the production too, because you can come back to it. And Rob, thanks for reminding me of that phrase, the Campfire Test, because we use that all the time, which is basically, for anyone not familiar with it, if you can pick up a guitar and you can sing the song and play it on the guitar at a campfire all by yourself and it makes sense, then you got a song. If you can't do it, well, I think there's exceptions too.
And that was when I was running my circle. That was basically the basis of it, like, down to just piano and voice. And if it comes across, it was like a workshopping. So I think that's,
yeah.
And can I just add, like, even
please, Myrna.
Sorry, even when it comes down to production, like the sound of depending on what you're producing for, but let's say you're writing song, you know, pop songs or whatever, whether it's whatever genre it is and it's supposed to be popular. You know, the sound changes so often. And by the time you finish a record and the record comes out, there's so much time that happens between that you really don't want to even finish the production until like the day before, you know? So production is great, but it's like easy and can be changed. And really, it does come down to the song.
Yeah. I feel like I could talk to you guys all night. But I think we do need to get to some of the questions, but please, and this will be a little looser. So if anyone has, like, I'm just going to read the questions from the chat. And then if we can't get to everybody, apologies. I'm going to try my best though. So and sorry for my finger poking. I'm on my iPad here, but yeah, this is a good question. How can a team of unknown songwriters get their songs out there for others to record? That's from Marco C. I mean, this is a fundamental question that we get a lot. Does anyone on this group want to sort of grab that quickly?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. SATE, you want to go? So I only really started getting quote unquote placements like last year. And for me, it really just came down to relationships. So just knowing the artist or knowing or producers, people that can pull you in to other relationships or sessions, really is kind of just growing your network, really. Otherwise, I would just say just keep writing and writing and writing and don't worry, because all of those great songs that you're writing are going to go somewhere when the time is right. And when you do finally get that call that Troy mentioned, you know, you're coming with like a really, really deep catalog. So that's what I would say.
Yeah,
I would definitely say too, like, you know, if you're starting out and you're new and you want to get cuts, because I feel that so bad when I started. I was like, you know, you're just going out there and trying to, you know, pitch your songs and you're thinking, but I'll tell you this, is that when I started, you know, what I realized really quickly is that the only real access I have is people that are kind of at my level. And at that time, you know, I was working with people like Lindsay L. was one artist I was writing with, and Tenille Townes you know, and those people now have major label deals. And what I can tell you is that, you know, as your relationships, you know, as you start to build them, you will grow together. So I think it's a real heartbreaking mistake to try to push too hard. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with cold calling someone or trying to make something happen. But I really think if I look back on all the things I've done, focusing your energies on the network you have, the people around you, I think is the most valuable thing you can do.
Really
Yeah,
not
really,
taking it
that's
for
good
granted.
advice.
Sorry.
No, Myrna, I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I think it's like, you know, don't use the people around you. Don't think of them as a stepping stone. Think of them as potential pathways to future success. I mean, it's basically everyone you're working with at that point is a team, and everyone needs to have respect for each other. And you know, we all want the same thing. We all want to get more cuts. We want success. Rob, I'm wondering if you can tackle this question from Paul O. What are your preferred free, low-cost recording softwares? BandLab, Audacity, what, however you say it. I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah,
Audacity.
Yeah.
The audacity of it.
BandLab is really cool. I actually just started using that a few months ago. I run this sort of fake record label at a school north of Peterborough, and they've all been using BandLab. It's amazing. It's totally free. It's like GarageBand with Google Docs. So it's like you can create your GarageBand song. You can lay down MIDI or you can lay down audio, and whoever you're sharing that file with, as soon as you're done, they instantly get that appearing on their screen. So it's a way to just like really quickly have like 5 people working on a track, and they can all start adding their own individual things. It's cool. The one thing that I don't like about BandLab is that as you play the track, because it's based on internet and it's based on a web browser, that there's a lot of slippage that can happen from the time that you hit play to by the time you get to the end, that maybe like your MIDI drums are not playing in time with what the audio is doing. So you have to quite often stop it and start it again where you wanted to hear from. But man, like in this day and age, it's a great little program, and what a great collaboration tool for people to use. And then when you're all done with the arrangement, you can download all the tracks individually into your own system and then manipulate it even further. So it's pretty cool to just lay down MIDI, lay down audio. It's fantastic. And then there's tons of apps on the phone that cost like 99 cents that are amazing. You know, there's so many things that I use on here. I did the soundtrack for The Nature of Things, David Suzuki, on my phone using a program called Oxy that cost me $3. Like
Oxy's cool.
It's really cool. It's just like, you know, there's tons of things that you can do. With Cubase
on the iPad Pro is slamming. It's really, really good. I was very, very impressed. Yeah. I'm gonna tackle this one. This one's from Richard Fitt. Could you talk about how musicians who know theory inside and out versus those who know nothing compare in terms of success? I want to answer this one because I have worked with people that have absolutely blown my mind who couldn't speak technically to what they were doing whatsoever. I'm a very trained musician. I'm a classically trained pianist. I studied jazz at college on bass. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I understand theory and jazz theory, and I could care less if I'm collaborating with someone who doesn't know it. It's not a cudgel you hold over another creator's head. The language is within us. We just have different ways of expressing them and describing things. You know, a songwriter in England calls the bridge the middle eight, right? I mean, you know, it's like everyone's got different languages to describe certain things, and even working with writers that you know, where English is not their first language. So anyone who says that you can't do it, I would be very suspect of that. And I really believe, you know, I mean, I taught myself how to do 3D drawing, like CAD drawings. I mean, I didn't go to school for it, but I'll show you the drawing. It's still a real drawing. It's not like it doesn't exist, you know? So, you know, I think if you want to do something, And that goes back to the conversation we all had before about how we do different things and we put that creative energy into all these different disciplines that we experience. I'm going to keep going. Vanessa Wang wants to know, in your opinion, how important is it being able to produce music on a DAW when it comes to songwriting? That's a great question. We were talking about how earlier, how, you know, a lot of sessions have a producer on the session right away. Someone's working with beats, but you know, there is things have to survive the campfire test. Does someone want to tackle that question?
I'll tackle it because I'm the newest to production. How important is it to produce on a DAW when you're making a song? I think making the song is not about the DAW. It's not about the production. It is about the campfire. So my first point is to pick up my phone and to voice note it, you know. And if it runs through me a lot and I'm going through it a lot, then I'll go to the piano. If it's going through me a lot, then I would take it to somebody, or I'd send it to somebody. Or now I will put it on my, you know, on my Logic and work through it the best I can. But I think campfire is the way to go. Like, make the song, make the melody, write the lyrics. If you don't have all of the lyrics, you know, just sit with what you have, you know, just let the process kind of flow through you. Don't force it.
I think it also depends who you're sending it to. You know, like if you're sending it to a producer for them to work on, then as stripped down as possible. Like for me, when I hear songs that are coming in, if it's already like fully produced and you've gone, you know, the whole 9 yards on the song, then it's hard for me to imagine a different way. You know, I like hearing the song and then imagining myself where it's going to go. If you're handing it into a record label, however, though, I think you really need to make it sound exactly how you want it to sound when it gets released as a single. So that's the moment when you need to hand it over to somebody or create it yourself, and make it sound as slamming as possible. But yeah, two different scenarios to think about.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Rob. I think also just making space for your collaborators too. Like, don't bring an idea to a session that's already fully formed. Like, you have to allow people to, you know, if you have an idea and it's done, let's finish it yourself. Like in Myrna, you were kind of talking about that before. I mean, just, you know, like if you're in love with it, well, take it home with you. You know, Gregory Doing is asking, what notation program does each of the panel use? I can pretty much sure that no one is really using a notation program. You know, I've used them in the past to print out string arrangements for artists that I've been working on, for the string players. Other than that, though, yeah, there's not a lot of notation going on at all. I know some drummers will take some kind of miniature notes, you know, if they're session players. I'll sometimes make some notes, like if I'm on a session for Rob, I'm just writing like 12 bars. Here's the chord progression, and just so I don't have to do too many takes. But yeah, everyone's pretty much, you know, with a lot of pop music too, you know, with the exception of myself and, you know, some Daniel Caesars and some of the, well, I mean, I guess Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars and that. There's a lot of chords coming back, which I really love to see, like really complex harmony and, you know, jazz inspired harmony, which it really excites me. And I think there's a whole renaissance of that coming back, which I'm really excited about. Let me see. Does anyone here use Master Writer? I keep getting emails about how good it is. Does anyone know what that is? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I've seen
I
it.
used it once. It's like a application that you can download. Well, this is from years ago, and so it kind of, you can find like synonyms and, you know, like metaphors, and just you essentially can write in a concept or a word or anything and find whatever you want, or like phrases of speech, or, you know, like it just gives you a whole bunch of writing examples or different ways to look at a concept that you're writing. It's cool. I used it like when I was younger, and then I just stopped. I find that it's good. It's kind of like using Splice for production, which I do dabble with as well. Splice is a great, like, in the meantime type of tool. Yeah, I don't use MasterWriter anymore, but it's okay. I mean, for me, I think more songwriting or concepts or perspectives come from conversation and research on the actual topics, or just whether I'm looking at research in my own life or whatever I'm going through. But MasterWriter could be a good tool in the meantime.
I think honestly, MasterWriter, especially if you're starting out, the one thing I liked about it when I first saw it was that if you didn't understand some really basic principles, because when I got into songwriting, I didn't know anything about music or anything. All I knew is what I had heard on the radio. So I think if you don't know anything about music, or if you're musically uneducated like I was when I first got into it, I think it could be really helpful, especially in those first couple of years, if you've never, if you're wanting to get some prompts, because I think there's some really great craft rules that they'll sort of direct you to. So I think it could be really useful or helpful for someone who's, starting out.
Yeah, cool. Myrna, can I throw a question your way? I'd love to know how you would answer this. Marco C is asking, do you find it easier to write music to fit the lyrics, or write the lyrics to fit the music?
Oh, well, I always the first thing I do is, well, if I'm writing the song by myself, then I have chords or I have some sort of melody I'm playing with. I normally don't have the lyrics to start. And if somebody's sending me something, or if someone's in the room with me and they're on an instrument, it's usually just chords, or I'll start with melody. So no, I don't normally start with lyric unless, it's a really good day and the song happens in 5 minutes and I just kind of blurt it out while I'm figuring out melody. But the first thing I always do is just intuitively receive the chords or receive the music and just start spewing melody, right? And usually my first instinct ends up being the song, when it's a good one. So yeah. And then, or, alternatively, you could, be writing a poem or up all night thinking about something, or have just gone through something with somebody and kind of scribbled some words down, and then if you're in the feeling of that melodically, you can kind of pull from those things. Or if you're writing for another artist and you're collaborating with them and they're telling you what they want to write about, you're remembering that and you're trying to, get some of that in there, so that it appeals to them and tells their story. But normally I'll start a song with melody.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I typically have some sort of harmonic structure going down, and then I just sort of play with melody. But I'm also very specific about, I call them my nonsense words. Donald Fagen from Steely Dan was really into this too. Like, he loved the way certain words just sounded and the way he would sing them. And I found that I got stuck on them too. Like, there was a phonetic feel in your face of how that word sort of sounded. So sometimes it would take me on a bit of a tangent lyrically, because I would try and jam lyrics into that same phoneticism, which doesn't always work, because obviously you have to have meaning. I think that's also why some of the Steely Dan lyrics are a little obtuse, because he was
not Steely Dan, Greg.
What?
Don't knock Steely Dan.
Oh, hey, I am the hugest fan. I'm a fan of every single record, but I mean, some of their lyrics are wacky. I love it, but some of them are, especially Gaucho, there's some crazy stuff on there. Like, I love it. But almost word associations, I almost found them more poems. It was really cool.
I was just going to say, Greg, just for me, because I'm always co-writing, that before coming up with lyrics, before coming up with music, it's always a discussion first. It's always just sitting down and talking first. And that's where I find that everybody gets the idea. Everybody gets the jumping off point. Once we've sat down and we figured out what we want to talk about, what the emotion is, then I know musically what I'm going to be doing. Then I know melodically what I'm going to be doing. And then I know the top liner knows exactly what they're going to be writing about. So just sitting down and figuring out first what you want to say and like what you want to talk about, what you want to discuss in this song, I think is the strongest way to start writing. Even if you're just writing by yourself, just writing down just like whatever your concept is, just almost like just writing like a short story about what it is that you want to say, and then just going from there, rather than just sitting at a blank page and thinking, what am I going to write?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Myrna, you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you, Rob. And then there's those partnerships that you kind of come across where SATE and I were talking about this person, and there's not one in the world, right? It's like partners, like you'll have more than one, and you come across this person and they literally just like sit down. So like my current writing partner sits down at the piano and we just go, and somehow we're communicating like just spiritually, because the emotions, they just go and the songs just come out. And so that's really fun when you get to do that and you don't necessarily have to talk, but talking is also obviously the key.
Yeah. I mean, I think all you guys will agree. I mean, we've all had those sessions when it just clicks and things are just flowing and everyone's working well with each other, and ideas are dovetailing on top of other ideas, and there's an excitement when you see these seeds and they germinate and they start looking like a song. And I know Rob, like that feeling when it's like, okay, well, I've got the verse, the pre-chorus, and the chorus. I can start copying and pasting and getting a form together. Like I always get super excited when I'm the producer on the track, when I know that I can sort of put out at least like copy and paste a loose form, and then we can start, working on verse 2. And I love that. Like that's one of the most exciting. The scariest part for me is right at the beginning. It's like, are we gonna have something, but that's when you can lean on your co-writers too, and because not every session is the same, and you're not always as creative as other sessions as well. And I think that's when I love the way there's we're all comrades and we sort of lean on each other. And I really like hanging with songwriters.
You're
really
so correct though that
people.
You're so correct that every session is different. I remember writing with you and David Martin, and we wrote such a great song, and then we tried to emulate it again. We got together to write, and we had the worst success of all time. That I think we just went out to dinner and had a few good laughs.
And the first time, you guys are leading me into like the first time I was in New York and kind of publishers were sending me around to different sessions, I was friggin' terrified. I can say friggin'. I was terrified. I was just like, okay, what if I go there and there's no vibe? And I just like can't write a song. And so I think that fear is important to note, because it does happen. I mean, maybe, after a while you stop having it because you realize really it's just about having a relationship or creating a rapport in that session, that, if we're vibing, maybe we didn't get something today. But it's just important to note for kind of beginner or up and coming songwriters that that's okay. And it's really not about that. Like as a producer, if I'm sitting with an artist, I just want to know that we get along. Like, do we have a vibe? That's it.
I was gonna say songwriting, getting into songwriting sessions is very similar to me as getting into a play, like an actor. You literally have to get intimate with people right away from jump. You just have to, you have to open up. You have to be vulnerable. You have to trust. You have to be fearless. It's like and you learn so much about that person there and then, to get to the meat of the song, to get to the heart of the song, to get to the like, yeah, that's it,
Yeah, that's really great. Like, you guys are all so smart. I could talk to you guys for the rest of the night, honestly, but we are running a bit late, and obviously the natural light is fading in my situation here. I'm just going to check the chat for any last minute questions though.
The other thing I was going to say too, about the idea of co-writing, like I know for me, when I first got into co-writing, I was so fearful of like what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. And for the first longest time, I was terrible in co-writes, but I think I had this one situation where we had to write 85 songs in 5 days. And so I was the music guy. And so someone gave me lyrics and I just had to, and there was like 5 other guys in the room that had way more experience, but my thing was just coming up with the music itself, like the song ideas. And I had to spit out these things. I think I had like 15 or 20 minutes to write the song and finish it and get a work tape and then move on to the next one. But what I got from that was, after that experience, I had no fear, and it was so easy for me to create after. So, but I think, to Myrna's point is that, just to give yourself an opportunity to co-write and work with others, but know that that fear that you have of being judged or whatever it is that's stopping you from creating, it'll go away eventually.
Yeah, you're right, man. And I'm glad you guys brought up the fear, because there is fear, especially when you just meet people or you're writing with someone that you really admire, or you feel really privileged to be in this session. And now you gotta come up with something, and you gotta sing it. And for a guy like me who's not a great singer, when not all songwriters are, like you gotta communicate your ideas somehow. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Really want to thank Matt for getting the technical stuff and taking care of the chat. I appreciate it, man. Also, thank you, Troy, for handling a lot of the questions offline. You're fantastic. You helped me out a lot. And thank you, Long McQuaid, for providing these for all different kinds of series. And thank you for just being always there for the musical community and having a place for us to spend ridiculously more money than we should be spending. But in these days and age, the technology is definitely inspiring. So I don't know. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do for the SAC on behalf of, the Canadian songwriter community. Everyone should be very thankful, because you bring all your talents and your expertise to helping the community at large. And I'm thanking you. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.